Hi, Jeanette DePatti, Broadcast Beat, here at the SMPTE Technical Conference 2017. I'm so excited to be sitting here with Anthony Magliocco and Jim DeFilippis. Welcome.
Thank you, Jeanette.
Hello,
We're glad to be here.
So, your roles have changed a little bit, both of you. Anthony, tell me what you're doing now.
Well, I had the pleasure of serving as the Secretary Treasurer for SMPTE Los Angeles for a couple of years, and it was pretty exciting, and part of our mission was working with other organizations, so I signed up to be the Secretary of the Visual Effects Society of Los Angeles section, and we've done a few projects together, a few meetings, and we're looking forward to doing more this upcoming year.
Great. And Jim?
Well, I've done many things with SMPTE. I was part of the program committee that organizes the annual technical conference. But last year I was elected the chair of the Hollywood section, which is the largest section of SMPTE, and took over in July from Marty Meyer, who's a past chair, and just working on getting monthly programs organized. That's mainly our mission. Trying to also organize for next year a day-long career day. So one of our mandates is to bring younger people into the fold. We need to get young minds and energetic new thinking in this new world of media, and we want to be part of the SMPTE family.
Why is that so important, to get that young, fresh perspective?
Well, you know, the obvious is a lot of us are aging out and retiring. Two, there's a transitional change from when I started, which was very hardware oriented, very physical, big equipment, tape machines, routers, switchers, to everything going to IP and software. Software is a big part of this now, and it takes a different kind of mindset. So our career day is not necessarily focused on a young person, because it could be someone, say, mid-level, mid in their career, and is thinking about, well, where do I go from here?
Is SMPTE a really good organization for somebody who's thinking about moving a different way in the motion picture or television?
I think SMPTE is a great organization if you're interested in a long-term, in a career path. If you're just a journeyman, if you're thinking, well, it's a good job, pays well, I'm working on a television show, or I'm involved at a media center or Netflix or whatever, and that's all well and good. But what SMPTE is about is generating the next generation of standards, and and being a community of like-minded people. So here, where we're coming together every year, we're exchanging ideas. We're learning about the new technology, but more importantly, it's a community, and it's a community that is. Somebody said it at the Fellows Luncheon today. It's a very unusual community in the world that we actually help each other, even though we're in a competitive space.
I think the other thing that's important for many people who are entering the media and entertainment space is that you may be in the area of the art, or you may be in the area of design, but you still need to embrace the technology. You still need to understand the business aspects. And one of the things that I think we've been pretty successful with Jim and the board of managers in Hollywood is exposing members to different segments of our industry, helping young people to understand. So we encourage people to come to SMPTE meetings, like we encourage people to come to VES meetings. You may not be an engineer, but you're going to learn some things which will be vital to you when you're in a meeting and someone says, we have this problem, how are we going to tackle it? And you say, oh, I learned about that. I know something about it. We should talk to so-and-so. And you then add value in your organization, and you add value to yourself. And I think many times people think that their career is just about this, but it's more about understanding all of the aspects. And I think SMPTE does a great job of doing that. And that's what we've been doing.
Well, I think the motion picture and television entertainment industry is a uniquely collaborative industry.
Right.
I think other industries are learning from us and coming this way more and more. Software, of course, is collaborative,
right.
Many of these businesses, but this entertainment business has always been a very collaborative.
Right, and it's also, specifically in Hollywood, it's about the connections you make and who you know. And that's a good thing, as it turns out, because we're all working. Everything's slightly different, but it all has a common theme to it. So it's good to get involved and be a part of that group. The other thing is that we're finding people coming into the technology from, as Anthony was sort of saying, from non-traditional areas, not necessarily engineering schools or trade schools. We're seeing people that may have started out that they were going to be a director or a cinematographer or even an actor or actress, and they got hooked into the technology because it's so accessible today, much more so than, 10, 15 years ago, you might have had a VHS deck and you might have had a camcorder. So you could have put together a home video, and you might have even
looked very much like a home video.
right, and you would be, you would have had some interesting tools, but you wouldn't have the full suite. Now, with a laptop computer, you can have the full editing things, and the consumer equipment rivals, certainly better than a lot of the professional equipment that I started out with.
You can get a gimbal for your iPhone, for crying out
Right.
loud.
Well, and we had a whole evening on drones and portable cameras and cell phones and creating content using these very inexpensive tools, which actually rivals the stuff that we started out working with. The picture, if you watch some old TV program, you say, my goodness, look at the pictures that we have. But today you have 10 times that on your phone.
That really sounds like fun. You mean that at a SMPTE Hollywood meeting you can have fun?
Oh yeah.
We always have fun. And I think that's the other part. As Jim said, it's about the camaraderie, it's about working with your peers, and also exchanging ideas, because there's the formal presentation at one of our events, of course. But the stuff that happens before and after is really, that's the magic, right?
Right. And it also occurs to me, this is one of the challenges with bringing in young people, is we have our own vernacular. And they may be intimidated or don't understand. The fact is, that's what I want to work on, is that to give them that background language so they understand what it is. My favorite expression is, well, you know what color bars is? And they go, yeah. Okay, but do you understand why there is color bars? And it's not an easy thing to answer, and I don't expect to get an answer, but I think that's a dialogue of there's a reason why we've done what we've done all these years, and it's not arbitrary, and there's science behind it. So, we're trying to inoculate them with this, so when they go off and work at a Netflix or a Hulu, they'll understand some of this. They'll understand it when the creatives come in and go, well, why is this scene so dark? Maybe we should just brighten it up. No, you don't understand. It's that way for a reason. Well, how do you know it's that way? Well, now we have to have the conversation about color bars.
Well, let's talk about this for a minute, because, everybody says, oh, we want young members and we want fresh blood, but what specifically is SMPTE Hollywood doing to help bring young people to the table?
Well, Marty Meyer, my predecessor, grabbed at one of our meetings some young people and said, I want you to work with us. So we have Chris Alvarez, and I'm drawing a blank on the second name.
Oh, so they were just commandeered.
They were commandeered. They were drafted. And Chris is then
Stephanie
really...
Wu from ABC.
Thank you.
Very young lady,
Very young
dynamic young lady.
Works at Disney.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, no, she's a great lady.
Yeah. So we asked them, though, well, what would get your peers to come to this? And they go, pizza and Instagram. Well, pizza, okay, we knew that.
We do that.
We can do that. We get pizza. Well, actually, we've upgraded a bit, but food. And the Instagram, well, Chris is now our volunteer board member who's taking care of all the social media things.
You guys have an Instagram?
We have an Instagram, we have Facebook, we have Twitter.
And LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn,
And LinkedIn,
very nice.
and I don't know, whatever else.
whatever else.
Whatever we need, right? But yeah, we are getting, and I think we've also, at least I've encouraged everybody, and I try at our meetings, is to search out the younger people and start chatting them up, just saying, hey, just so maybe if they feel a little intimidated. But we also have set up tables specifically, and had Stephanie and Chris and some of their colleagues, be at the table with information or whatever.
Well, have they been useful in teaching vernacular to you? They certainly have their own
They have.
vernacular.
They have. They've been very much so.
And I think the programs that both the VES and SMPTE put on are trying to broaden the experience of the members. Really, that's really our mission, so that we help them. Matter of fact, I'm doing one in December on virtual production. You know, we saw the success of the Jungle Book, which was shot, and I made the joke when I met Mr. Favreau. I said, you know, it's a cycle. We started out shooting all of our movies on a soundstage, and then we went out to the field, and now we're shooting all of our movies on the soundstage. So, but there's a lot of disciplines in this new technology. There's software, there's hardware, there's tools.
A lot of graphic design.
Graphic design and effects. So this is really tying all of the teams together, and that's what we always like to talk about. You're going to be in a meeting, and you're going to have to talk to the person who's bringing the cameras and the monitors, and the other people who are trying to figure out how they're going to put it together. And one of the other goals that's always been talked about is, as we move through these workflows, there is different vernacular, different words, and one of the challenges we're all faced with is trying to standardize that. And I think there's been quite a few discussions, especially now in this whole new area of AR and VR,
right,
which of course is yet another set of new challenges that we're all facing.
Right, stitching.
You know, we had last year we were asked by Howard Luck, the new VP of Standards. They've been struggling with trying to replace SMPTE timecode, which, by the way, when people ask me what SMPTE's about, I go, well, okay, start with, you ever hear of timecode? Oh yeah, I know time, I use it every day. Well, that's a SMPTE standard, right?
The holes in the film.
Well, that's the film sprocket. That's the other thing. It's, you know,
yeah,
which we don't have anymore. We have them, but we don't, you know. But the point of that was, so he wanted to have in New York, Hollywood, and London, he wanted to have a big meeting, bring everyone in, because the people that were working on the new type of time code kind of got themselves off in a corner, and they were stuck.
In the weeds?
In the weeds. And there were like 3 versions, and there were big arguments between 4 people.
Okay.
So he said, look, I want to get input from the community. What do you need? What is the current time code not doing for you? So apropos of language, one of the things in the questionnaire, he built this questionnaire and people had to fill out, and was jam sync, and it was a distinct difference. Half the audience roughly knew what that meant, and the other half was like, what are you talking about?
Needless to say, it was a lively evening.
Yeah, but that was good. So people were talking about, well, what's this jam sync about? You know, you had to explain the background to it. And it may not, I mean, they concluded at the end that there was still needed, because there were still parts of the industry that used it, but it clearly wasn't a go forward type, you know, situation.
Well, you mentioned that VES and SMPTE are working together, and
right.
Can you talk about how you're working with other organizations in the neighborhood?
Sure. Well, I organized a meeting in September. We had the members ask us about, hey, can we get a meeting about the new broadcast standard? So I thought about that, and I go, because I've been involved in it, I'm like, well, I could pull together some resource and whatever, but I'm like, you know, it'd be really great to get the guy who chairs the whole committee, Dr. Richard Chernock. And so I talked to him, and he said, sure. And then the bonus was, through the IEEE, another standards organization, they have a speakers bureau. So they actually picked up his costs. He was going to be on the West Coast anyway. But even more importantly, we did it as a joint meeting with the Audio Engineering Society of Los Angeles, the Society of Television Engineers, which is a local base. I missed SBE, but we'll get them on the next round. So one of the thoughts I have is to try to knit together all these different organizations, VES. There's the ASC that we want to have a joint meeting with, and really try to bring everybody together at one point or another and do some cross kind of pollinization.
You also talk about within SMPTE there's a lot of committees and different groups, and how are you working to sort of bring those teams together and coordinate efforts in different arenas?
Well, that's more, I think, of if you're referring to the standard side, you know, that's a whole separate group, and that's under Howard. The other part of it is, though, there's the student chapters, there's the individual sections, and there's each one of those has their own little programs. Plus now with HPA, there's a couple of initiatives there like the YEP, the Young Entertainment Professionals. So we're still trying to figure out how to best coordinate that. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is, again, through Career Day, I want to outreach to the universities, to the students, mainly to intrigue them because, I think a lot of the bright ones, they see Silicon Valley. They see, I'm going to be the next, Google, the next Elon Musk. And that's great. We're not going to, someone's got that kind of drive, we're not necessarily going to bring them in. But we'd like to expose some of the other people and say, look, this is an interesting place to work.
So who would be a typical Hollywood SMPTE member? What would they look like?
What do they look like?
That's okay.
So
what would
we
they
have
be like?
we have members from every discipline.
Right.
So we have audio engineers, we have people who are specialists in film and film restoration, and every discipline, because the organization touches all of those. So it's very difficult to say. We have young people just starting in their career. We have people who are been doing this. I went to my first empty meeting, I think in 1975. I was 12, I think, at the time. But it's very. You would agree, right, Jim? It's not. There's no typical. It's a love for the industry and an interest in learning. I think those are really the strengths of what we bring.
Right. And I think the nature of the membership is changing. Again, when I came out here 15 years ago, heavily post community, a lot of post houses, a lot of post production engineers. Mm-hmm. That's changing. That's gone away. A lot of post can be done. You don't need a brick and mortar facility for that. But what we are seeing is an uptick in the new types of distribution, over the top, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube. That's becoming. We're seeing a lot of our members coming, or potential members coming in. Because again, we're not. It's not like you have to be a member to go to our events. We're open to everybody.
Wait, say that again. That's really important.
Well, our events are open to all members of the community who have interest. So if, and again, we feed you, we have a social hour, and there's always an interesting topic.
So we have just a little bit of time left, and what I want to know is, we're all busy, right? We all have 1,000 places to be. What's the number one thing you can get out of SMPTE, and what is the way to make the most of your membership or participation with SMPTE?
I think the number one thing is get involved. That you'll be amazed at the connections you'll make and the resources. And they can be leveraged in all different ways.
And some ways that people can get involved are?
Well, come to our meetings, get involved with we have a board of managers, and that's somewhat open to, there's elected positions, but, we take volunteers when we get them. Obviously, be a member. You get as a member, you get the magazine, which is very informative. But even more importantly, and there are webinars, which are very, again, free and informative to members. You have access to the electronic library. So a lot of the papers that are given at conferences and published articles, you can go and research. So it's a great resource.
So I would say it's a lot simpler. Don't be afraid, just come to a meeting. It's really that simple. And what you'll find there is you'll find camaraderie, you'll find people that you know, people that you didn't know, you would love to get to know, you'll learn something. And I encourage this in all organizations to just try it. You don't know until you put your toe in the water, and then once you jump in, you find, wow, this is fun.
Right.
I've been to some SMPTE Hollywood meetings, and I can attest to the fact that they do indeed have pizza. It's delicious. And you meet new friends, and it really can be a lot of fun. So I really want to thank you, Jim and Anthony, for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
And I want to encourage you out there to find out about SMPTE Hollywood. Jeanette DePatty, Broadcast B, here at the SMPTE Technical Conference 2017.